Did you know a few seconds of deadheading now can mean weeks of extra flowering tomorrow? Welcome to Andyn Farm. This week we're sharing how we keep our flowers going for longer. We're going to show you some of our favourite plants that are looking incredible this week. And if we get time, we'll finish with a simple rose deadheading demo with one of my favourite roses. Let's start with one job that will make a real difference in your garden over the next few weeks. With these geraniums here, I'm not going to do all of these to start with. These have been in flower now for about 6 weeks, and as you can see, the finished flowers are just forming seed heads. So if I leave these on, the energy is going to produce more seed and go into producing seeds. So because I want to encourage further flowers for longer on in the season, there's very few new flower buds left on that now. It's mostly just gone to seed. So although it feels counterproductive because you've still got some flowers on it, what I'm actually going to do is come in and cut it back by approximately 60%. I'm going to be quite ruthless with it, and it's going to look terrible. A hard chop now into that plant is going to help that plant to then produce its next flush of flowers a lot quicker. As I say, I'm not going to do it all. I've got plenty of hoverflies behind me and bees that are enjoying the flowers, but I do want to do some to make sure that I've got some new flowers coming for later on in the summer. Because a lot of the perennials have flowered early this year, I want to make sure that we've got flowers coming for later on, which means that you're prolonging your flowering season going through the garden. These are catmint, or dwarf catmint, Nepeta nursery. These have been absolutely stunning for about 6 to 8 weeks in full flower. I could leave them, and if you can see, there's fresh new growth coming at the base. They will eventually then reflower by themselves if I leave it, but I'm just going to come in and trim the plants back to the new foliage, remove the flowered shoots, and basically what that's going to do is rejuvenate the plant and mean that all the energy, rather than it going into seed, is going to go into producing new flowers for the new plant. So that, in another 4 to 6 weeks time, is going to be full of flowers again. The bees have been absolutely loving these. This is basically very simple deadheading. I'm sure most people will have heard in the past. Optimum time is probably about a week ago. So rather than all this old growth, which it would have eventually grown over the top of, you don't have to do this. It's just something that I do. So although this looks drastic, in a few weeks' time, you'll be rewarded with a whole new display of flowers. As we've been walking around doing this, it's just amazing how much wildlife is still enjoying the garden despite the heat. So although it's nearly finished flowering now, you're looking at digitalis milk chocolate, which is a short-lived perennial that sends up these lovely, tiny, delicate flowers. And if you come in really closely, you can just see inside each one, there's a little lip, just where my finger is there, just to encourage the bees and insects just to pop inside to get the pollen. And there are lots of bees just behind us here. It's one of the foxgloves that, although it's not as big and brash as the short-lived biennial, this is normally a short-lived perennial foxglove, so it's one that I really like to use for wildlife because it's fantastic for bees and hoverflies. And if you look at the young seedlings just behind us that are actually in flower, it's completely covered in bees. And a butterfly there behind it as well. So, unlike your normal traditional foxglove that would basically grow in the first year, flower in the second year and then die off, these are short-lived perennials, so quite often they'll live for 3 to 5 years in the garden, and they'll actually seed themselves around quite nicely as well. So they make absolutely belting plants for pollinating insects, and it's a really nice plant to contrast. You can see against the baby miscanthus at the back, but they work really well amongst the ornamental grasses. In a normal year these wouldn't be in flower till July into August, but obviously this year with the extremes of temperature. This is astilbe Washington, or foxgloves beard is the common name. But for a semi-shaded spot, moist retentive soil is ideal. Again, they're really good for pollinating insects. We were asked this week for plants for semi-shade for the summer. It's a superb flower, very, very tough and hardy. It does want plenty of water, so a moisture retentive soil is ideal. Or when you've planted them, apply the mulch, similar to, I think we did in one of our other videos where we were putting an organic mulch down, bark mulch. But the flowers are absolutely stunning and looking absolutely pristine just at the moment, so I just thought I'd pull those out, because for full sun, well, partial shade is the ideal, but we'll quite often use astilbes for pond-side planting, and they really do provide a burst of colour for the summer months. And then in the autumn winter we always tend to leave them up, because these flower spikes will then form seed, which again you'll find in the winter, if you leave the stems high, the birds will come and then eat the seeds over the winter. Finches particularly love to eat the seeds, so again it's a really good tip just to leave those seed heads up. Then in the spring, when the new growth comes, just cut them down at the base. Tiny little hoverfly feasting on the nectar of the flowers. The reason I've pulled 3 of each is basically, it's going back to traditionally, I was always taught we plant in odd numbers. We tend to plant in 3s, 5s, 7s, depending on how big a scale your planting bed is. If you're planting a group of plants, it gives you more impact quicker, and the plants will then fill the space. Rather than just having a single plant, which you can, and in time a single plant of each would eventually fill, but it will take 3 to 5 years. If you put 3 plants in, that will then form a clump and give you the effects of a 5-year-old plant within the first couple of years of planting. So 6 plants there would quite comfortably cover approximately 2 metres of planting bed as a rough guide. Talking about getting things established, we've had 1 or 2 other little jobs we've had to deal with this week as well. This is one of the areas that we're feeding the alpacas at the moment. As you can see, the main meadow behind us there is in need of topping, but where we're feeding them particularly, because of the heat and the number of flies, I have been in and topped this week. It's pretty much turned to hay straight away, and they've pretty much eaten the whole lot. Before we finish, one more deadheading job. In the same way that we've just done with the perennials, and I've just shown you how to cut back the perennials, roses are another one, particularly if you've got a repeat flowering rose. This is David Austin Harlow Carr that I'm looking at here, which smells absolutely divine. But as you can see, I have got whole clusters of flowers that have completely finished in there now. So to prolong the season, I am actually going to come in and deadhead and remove the flowered stems, which is going to make the energy of the plant go into producing more flower buds. So this will then flower again. I'll probably deadhead this 3 or 4 times as we go through the season. Also helps just to give it a very, very light trim and keep it to shape, because as you can see, even though this was cut back really hard when we did that earlier in the year, it has put a lot of growth on this year already. So normally I wouldn't have expected this amount of growth probably until about August, September time, and it's already put it on. We're only coming now towards the end of June. So if you join me in the wilds, this is cleavers or goosegrass, which basically has tiny little hooks, and it will attach to you and to anything passing and spread itself around. Now you can see the finished rose flowers. So I can just come in and pinch back to a healthy bud the shoots that are flowered. It's always worth checking if you know what your rose is first. A lot of these roses, when we get towards the autumn, will leave the flower spikes on because they produce some fantastic hips, which will be fruit and food for the birds over the winter. But at this time of year, because this is a repeat flowering rose, I know that if I come in and take off these dead flowers, basically that is then going to produce more flowers for me for the summer and keep the season going. So it's basically this week, it's about prolonging flowers and putting the energy into producing new growth rather than letting them go to seed and the rose plant just getting bigger. I'm telling it I want it to put its energy into flowering again and saying, oh, you haven't done enough flowering, you need to do some more for me. Again, you don't have to be too precise with this. Shouldn't really say that, but you don't. As long as you're giving it a gentle haircut, and ideally you're just above a bulb when you're cutting back at this time of year, you're not really going to do any harm. The most important thing is that you're using clean tools and you're disinfecting when you're moving from plant to plant. So at any point of year that you're doing any pruning work, basically anything that's dead, diseased or damaged can be cut out at any time of year. So hopefully you can see just within a couple of minutes there, this rose is looking a lot better for itself, a lot cleaner, tidier, and it's going to mean that it's going to go on to flower through the summer. One less job to do. Thank you very much for bearing with us for another week. I hope you enjoy some of the content that we're trying to put out for you. Please let us know in the comments if there's anything that you would particularly like us to try and share with you, and then we can try and obviously include that in one of our future vlogs. Thank you for watching. There is a lot to do, but if your garden looks like this, you can tame it.